are. Welcome to Take a Breather with Kaia. That's me, Kaia Fowler, for those of you who don't know, which I'm guessing is no one, since it's right there on my Facebook feed. New strings. You and I get the delight of new strings today, and I do mean that. I'm not being sarcastic. I love the way new strings resonate. So without any more chit-chat, let's get this going. Yes, today I want to share a wonderful song, I think, for the beginning of summer, for that cusp period that we're in now here in the Midwest, at least, between summer and spring, between spring and summer. At least here in the upper Midwest. I'm sure it's warmer when you get further south. This is a song I believe I wrote in June or July. And it will be on my forthcoming album, One Breath. It's called Standing. It's called Standing. Sometimes I call it Standing Where I Want to Be. I'm glad you're here. Thank you. There are times when my heart fills with sorrow. There are times when I laugh with pure joy. There are times when I wonder how I'll make it to tomorrow. And there are times when today is all I need. Oh, if I'm standing right here tomorrow, and if I'm standing strong and free, yeah. Oh, if I'm standing right here beside you, love, then I'll be standing where I want to be. Do you feel the rain on the air tonight? Do you hear the June bugs tapping at the screen? Do you see the lightning flashing across the sky, love? Do you hear my heart calling your name? Oh, if I'm standing right here tomorrow, and if I'm standing strong and free, yeah. Oh, if I'm standing right here beside you, love, then I'll be standing where I want to be. Let's stand out in the storm, know what it means to feel alive, so full of longing and desire, and still so thankful to be home. Oh, if I'm standing Yes, I'll be standing where I want to be. Oh, I'll be standing where I want to be. Yeah, June bugs tapping at the screen. I was thinking about what story I wanted to share with this song, and I remembered other summers long ago when I was a girl, and I would go to visit my great-grandma Grace. We lived in a rural town, very small town in southern Illinois on the Ohio River at that time, and we lived outside of town, and she lived in town in a tiny house. She was getting to the age where it helped her to have someone come in and do certain things. One of the things that I helped her with every week was washing out her hair. She had really long hair, and we would shampoo it, and then she would part it down the middle into 2 sections and braid each section a certain way, and then fold the braids over her head. And I loved watching her do that, and helping her with that. There's a closeness in helping another person, a person you love, that I've always enjoyed. And what else would we do? She loved to cook for me, so certain things I remember more. Fried apples. She liked to make fried apples for breakfast, and I still make fried apples, thanks to her. I made fried apples for myself for my birthday this year, which was just a couple weeks ago. And she liked to make blackberry cobbler when blackberries were in season. So we would go, her son, my grandpa, and I, and some of the other of my cousins, my siblings, would go pick wild blackberries and bring them to her, and she would make blackberry cobbler. So Grandma Grace had many talents. She crocheted afghans. She had many afghans around her place in olive green, yellow, and orange, because this was the early 80s. So she probably had made those in the 70s. And she had these little figurines on her TV year-round. They were Christmas figurines of a little boy and a little girl ice skating. But she loved them so much, she just left them up year-round. And so those were my weekends for a while. I don't even know how long. I just remember those days as being pleasantly slow-moving and simple, and times when I felt very present with her and with the world around us. Her house was tiny. She had, if you came in the back door, there was where the June bugs would tap at the screen when the light was on inside. There was a small kitchen with a table. This is how I remember it. If my family members want to argue with me, that's okay, because I have a vivid imagination. So sometimes I remember things that I imagine. I fill in the details. I think we all do that. Anyway, she had the kitchen area. I remember the stove and the cast iron skillet, and the little living room opened up off of that, and then around the corner was where her bed was, in her bedroom. And I remember one of the things I was introduced to at a pretty young age, I think I was probably 11 or 12, I'm not sure, was that when her house was built, indoor plumbing wasn't really a thing. This was a mining town in a very impoverished portion of the state, and they mined fluorite in that part of Illinois, and nothing was particularly fancy. Everything was very functional, and the houses her house was quite small by our standards. And when they added an indoor bathroom later, sometime down the road, they put it in the basement. Probably it was easier, lower cost to plumb it down there, I don't know. So as Grandma aged, getting into the basement was not safe for her, and so she kept a bedside commode. And you know, I thought to myself as I was remembering all the details about what it was like being with Grandma, is that something to share? Is that something that she would want me to share? And I thought, you know what? If we are fortunate, we all get older and we all face changes in what we can do. And it's high time that I contribute to destigmatizing anything related to the aging process. And how wonderful for her that she could live there in her home. And how wonderful for me that I had a chance to get to know her better because I could go spend the weekend with her. And I do remember pausing as a child and thinking to myself, what a different existence it is to be older and to have less freedom in what a person can do with their body in particular. She was always beautiful to me, though her face was deeply, deeply lined with wrinkles. She had a face that had clearly lived, and her eyes twinkled. I remember her eyes as being hazel. I debated with myself about that, though. They may have been blue. I'm a lot older than 12 now, people, so be patient with me. I do remember the expression on her face, though, and the expression in her eyes, and the humanity in her eyes quite clearly. And I remember her smile. She had this broad, ready smile, and her voice was warm and buttery, but a little bit rough around the edges, a little gravelly. And she would just shuffle around the house in her slippers and her gosh, what did they call them? I'm trying to remember, like a dressing gown, a house dress. That's what I'm thinking about. House dress. It buttoned down, they're snapped down the front, it had pockets. Very practical, very handy, and many different patterns, colors that she liked. And yeah, those were our days. And then we would get ready, and the weather was nice. We would sit out on the back stoop, on the back patio area, where there was a roof and a porch swing. And I just remember feeling really settled there on the porch swing next to Great Grandma Grace. And I don't remember her telling a lot of stories necessarily. I think she would answer questions if I had questions. I always had questions. Mostly, though, what I remember is us just looking out. Her backyard had concrete edgings and little partial walls and things because it was multi-leveled. And it was just scraggly, plain old grass. I remember it being kind of dry sometimes when we would be sitting out there. And the back alley. And sometimes people would walk along the alley and, we might comment or talk. Maybe it was someone she knew. Mostly, though, I feel like we just sat there, being together, looking out at the world and feeling quite content. So those are fond memories, and the reason that I feel this story connects to the song is because of the June bugs and because of how much I associate summer with that era in my childhood, and because also of that feeling of being present and where I want to be, and thinking back to who I have been with and had that experience with, she comes to mind. So as I got older, I applied to and went away to a high school in another part of the state. And she eventually went into a nursing home and died. And I didn't get to see her again. Fortunately, though, my dad saved some of her things, so I have one of her Afghans, and I have her water pitcher that I don't think she still used it necessarily at that time. It may have just been decorative, and that's how I remember it. But the basin got broken a long time ago, but it's a ceramic water pitcher, and I have that. And I have the figurines that sat on the TV. So what a treasure, because what I've noticed is that objects can connect us with people who have passed on, who have transitioned beyond this life and this world, and help remind us of those moments spent with them, and of the love and the connection and all of the emotions that go with being in relationship with another person. It meant a lot to me, that time with Grandma Grace, and that she seemed to enjoy it and to enjoy having me around. And I enjoyed her. So I think I still have her with me. I feel her with me. I feel her in spirit. I feel her wisdom with me. She would give advice on how to use plants to help with healing, and other kinds of advice too, never unrequested. Really quite a gentle person. But I think also what I'm feeling right now at this moment in my life is a desire to remember what it's like to be simply present with another person, not doing, just being. Just being. She was very good at being human. And yeah, that's where I choose to stand when I can. I choose to stand in good company with the comfort and the knowledge of that continuum of human experience. The world has changed a lot, and my life has changed so much since she was living. And yet, I think there's much about being human that does not change. I was reading today about one of the latest debates among archaeologists about when the first peoples came to North America and South America. And it fascinates me to think about human beings and our culture and our spirituality and our traditions and how we lived and survived here in the world, and how much of that has changed and how much it has stayed the same. And human to human, there's a lot of sameness there. There's a lot of oneness and similarities, I think. So, yeah, I feel a oneness with my great-grandma Grace, and with all of you, and with my my late husband, and with all of my living friends and relatives and loved ones, with my mother, who means so much to me and is so supportive. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm standing where I want to be.